Hey guys, EpicEpics here, coming at you guys with the weekly replay analysis with XKai. We're gonna start with the pick and bans right away. So Kai, we basically got the first pick in this, or did they? Because I see we have the last pick here.
They have the first pick.
They had the first pick, right? And we have the last pick. So yeah, they went with the Lifestealer first pick after banning the Kato and the Syllabear, and we banned up the NA and the Bat Rider. After the Bat Rider ban, Lifestealer is a pretty good, safe first pick. Basically because Lifestealer is very vulnerable to pickoffs from the Bat Rider, and his magic immunity does not save him from the rage. It's kind of a hard counter. After the Bat Rider ban, you could pick up any sort of carries, Anti-Mage, Lifestealer, maybe even PL, just very strong in the early picking phase. And then we went ahead with the Magnus to counter the Lifestealer and the Wisp to leave a pretty kind of flexible lineup for our second two pickups. And then they went ahead with the Darkseer and the Shadow Demon, two hard counters to the Lifestealer. I guess then they're kind of giving away that the Lifestealer would be their single core at this point. The Shadow Demon, as everyone knows, that the Disruption skill, the first skill on the Shadow Demon, prevents the Lifestealer from wounding someone, then charging forward and bursting him down. Because after the target is wounded, the Lifestealer would rage up and would use his burst to take someone out, and with a defensive disruption, that's always annoying to deal with for the Lifestealer. So they went ahead, picked that up. The Surge works in the same way, as Lifestealer's only initiation spell is the Open Wounds, and that is a slow, whereas the Surge give the target a maximum movement speed buff, so completely negating the effects of the Lifestealer. And afterwards, you see we picked up the Tiny as our third pick, because we were thinking, well, with the Wisp, we could go a variety of different heroes. However, Tiny's craggy exterior grants him 24% to stun somebody when he's attacked, and this goes through the magic immunity of the Lifestealer. And here, although that they have, Darkseer and Shadow Demon, they are not going to be picking a secondary carry most likely to kite the Tiny. Or in the case that they do, their lineup would be a very strong mid carry, perhaps, because the Darkseer, unless going jungle just for another long lane, it's most likely that the Lifestealer would be in a tri lane. The Darkseer would be in the off lane, and they would pick up some sort of mid. So at this point, it was relatively safe for us to pick up the Tiny before they ban out, heroes that work really well with the Wisp, like CK, Jug, or whichever. So anyways, in the ban phase, we banned out Lina, which is a strong support that works very well with the Shadow Demon, giving him a lot of burst, especially when Wisp and Tiny TP somewhere. A strong setup from the Shadow Demon could easily kill the Wisp before TPing back, and we didn't want that to happen. And then we banned out the Storm Spirit, which is a very strong mid kind of carry hero, and then we banned out the Disruptor, which with his Glimpse skill could really screw up the Wisp's relocate ultimate. And we've actually talked about this in an earlier replay analysis, how once two people TPs in, you could glimpse the Wisp back and suddenly your carry stranded in enemy territory, and it's never something that you want to have. And they, on the other hand, banned out the CK. Perhaps they were thinking that our Tiny could have at this point gone mid with the Magnus at the off lane, and we could still opt for a Wisp CK top, which is always very strong, because the Reality Rift, the CK, means an instant stun onto the tether, and at once Wisps get a few levels, that's a 2-second stun right off the bat onto another Chaos Bolt that you could generate maybe a 4-second stun. So it's a very strong pickoff. They then banned out the Visage and the Clockwork, two heroes that work very strong in a tri lane, and also the Clockwork has a strong off lane capability as well. Then for their fourth pick, they went ahead with the Tidehunter, and that's just giving them a lot of AoE control that works very well in conjunction with the Darkseer. and it prevents us from really bursting down the lifestealer, protecting their single core. We went ahead and picked up the Rubik because that just counters Tidehunter very hard. Well, not necessarily counter, but it's always had to have the capability to steal a Tidehunter's Ravage, so that way he can't always get the perfect positioning off in the middle of 5 heroes, where he can't, he can't really, he has to make sure that he can catch the Rubik, or he has to watch the Rubik's positioning, so he's more careful holding on to his Ravage. And then their last pick was Skywrath Mage, so that was their mid, a hero that has very strong early, mid game, and late game impact, simply because the ultimate scales very well up until the very late game, as long as he has mana. And what Sky likes to do with Skywrath is actually pick up a Dagon, and at the late game, 20-second CD for 1,200 damage nuke, along with the 800 nuke, and your other skill actually, reduces magic reduction. It just, it's very powerful burst hero. And if we finish up our replay here, we see that we end up taking the Slark. If I could get this to speed forward. Just a moment. Anyways, Kai, do you have anything to say about the pick and ban?
Yeah, I think going through like the initial first 3 picks from both teams, they went for the first pick Lifestealer. We opted to go Wisp and Magnus, simply because usually you see people going Wisp Tiny or Wisp CK off the bat, but we really didn't feel the need to pick up that other hero, because with their Lifestealer, it's very unlikely they'll pick up like another CK or Wisp or CK or a Tiny, because if they picked up even both to try to block pick us, it would definitely screw with their lanes a lot. And then they picked up the Shadow Demon to kind of, because they needed a support, and also Shadow Demon is very good against Lifestealer, so they kind of blocked us there, seeing as how we didn't pick up a support other than the Wisp. And then through the last pick, they wanted to tank up, so they got a Tidehunter who isn't easily picked off by Wisp Tiny Gank because of his high HP and Kraken Shell. And then with our last pick of the Slark, we saw that they didn't really have any lockdown, other than their only stun came from a Ravage, which is easily Dark Pact by Slark's first ability, which if he times it well, he can remove any debuffs on him. So
yeah, and that would never be the case. Like, they would never use the Ravage just to pick him off or to somehow shut him down. Most likely they would need the Skywrath, a well-timed silence. Aside from that, the Slark actually can Dark Pact the wound, Dark Pact Shadow Demon's ultimate, and just essentially leap away and just survive, right? So we thought that was a hero that really could kite very, very well. And here's something maybe I think they could have done better. Rushing to block pick the Shadow Demon and then going ahead to pick up the Tidehunter without banning the Rubik, I think that was somewhat of a mistake. If they knew in their minds that they wanted to pick up the Tidehunter, I think banning the Rubik at the last. Banning the Rubik at the last phase would have
over
been
the
really,
CK.
yeah, over the CK, or maybe over the CK would have been very nice, because even though banning the Rubik will give away that you want to pick a more wombo combo hero, Rubik actually, you could justify it because Rubik right now could steal the wall from the Darkseer, vacuum. Rubik generally is very strong against Lifestealer. If the Lifestealer decides to wound, then rage towards you, you could just steal the rage and run away. Just in general, Rubik is a very strong hero against their current lineup, and banning it wouldn't have given too much away, and denying us the ability to steal the Ravage would have been more powerful, I think, compared to their other bans. We'll jump right into the laning. Instead of having the Wisp supporting me right away, the Wisp actually roamed around and went for the pickoff of the Skywrath Mage, because we knew that Skywrath is very vulnerable to ganks. At level 1, he opted for his Arcane Orb, but it didn't really matter. Maybe with the concussive shell there is a slow to prevent any sort of ganks, but if he did offer that, then he wouldn't have the harass capability to lane properly, and even with that, Slark with a leap would easily get a pick off. And in the meantime, Tiny and Rubik easily lanes against the Darkseer in the long lane. Whereas, we kind of sacked our off lane, the Magnus, but knowing that they have no stuns, only slows, the Magnus would always be able to get the skewer off. And with the wound to, set up their kills, Magnus is pretty safe in terms of laning. So these lanes are pretty standard. And if we look at the last hits, it's only the first wave in, but it already sets a good pattern in what's happening. Top, my Tiny and Slark's mid, both CSing very well, and here the Skywrath is struggling a little bit despite having his harass capability. The Slark is able to just bottle through any sort of damage until level 6, and with the first blood advantage, he's easily able to get his experience, get through the first couple of minutes, and once he gets his level 6, it becomes almost impossible to harass the Slark out of the lane. So Kai, what do you think were your experiences with the Magnus? Because I realized when we do the analysis, I put a lot of emphasis on my hero just because I'm more, focused. I know what I was thinking, but maybe you could share with us what your offlane mag, what your mentality was when you were playing this.
Yeah, because initially, if you look at their tri-lane, they have a Disrupt, they have a Gush, and they have a Wound. It's pretty high kill potential on a solo mag. So I opted for extra regen and tried to eat my way into the jungle and just leech EXP. But they either lost control of their creep equilibrium or decided to push the lane for whatever reason. With that in mind, I just left and then just came back to leech EXP under the tower.
Let me go back to that point of the replay and see where you ate through. So yeah, guys, if you see on the screen right now, Kai actually ate in the jungle, ate this tree, and hid here. And if we speed forward a little bit, staying here, they accidentally blocked the creep wave under the tower. So Kai only got this single creep experience here. And although the supporters are roaming looking for it, Kai's fogging them inside the trees. This is kind of cheeky. In case they do, in case they do catch him, he does have a skewer to get away, but it puts him in a pretty vulnerable position if they did scout him out. Unfortunately, they didn't keep the creep equilibrium here, so Kai had to put himself in harm's way to get the experience. And we could actually see what happened with the harass here. So there's a Disrupt, there's a Gush, and like we were talking about, because they have no stun to lock him up, he's always able to cast the skewer off, and here he is safe. So yeah, that was it for the laning. Let's go back to mid. I see that a kill actually happened after the first blood.
Slark is doing very well.
Yeah, he is doing very well.
First blood advantage.
And I think he gets a pick off here. I didn't actually get to see Angel Baby play this, so I'm gonna check it out in this replay analysis, see what he did here. So
he had that bottled regen.
Yeah, he does. I guess. Yeah, so I guess he's taking a lot of damage. He had the regen, and then he fogged him uphill, did he? No, he didn't. He simply just magic wanted. Now he pops the regen, following through. Yeah, hits full HP and then just dives him under the tower. Yeah. Good kill, good kill. And afterwards, he's just that much closer to level 6. He's gonna bottle through and hit level 6 in a moment, and that's probably gonna give him all the advantage he needs. Yeah, so he reaches level 6, Skywrath Mage is level 4, and as soon as he backs up, he's healing 20 per second. That's half of a salve, and he's gonna reach full HP in no time. So, is there anything else you want to add for the early laning parts of this game? I think it's pretty standard.
For a hero like Slark, it's pretty critical that he got the early advantage with the first blood from the help of the Wisp, and with that, Slark snowballs really hard, and Skywrath is very squishy, so if he hits 6, which he did, a considerable amount of time before the Skywrath is going to have a really bad time.
Yeah, you guys see he's nuking him down, but he's just regening everything up, and his rune control is just uncontestable right now. Yeah, you were saying, Kai, because...
Oh, yeah, because if he hits 6, he has Leap, he has Shadow Dance. He's just very mobile hero if there's no vision on him.
Yeah, and yeah, pretty much. His speed to contest the runes and the way that he survives inside the lanes. And if he takes too much damage, just back off for 10-20 seconds. It's what, 3% a second, right? So 10 seconds is 30%, 20 seconds more than half of your HP, and that's not counting your natural regeneration and bottling through any sort of extra damage.
Slark's ultimate gives him a lot of aggressive potential, and it gives him that extra room to allow him to be super aggressive. Since the ultimate cooldown is so short, he can just pop in and out of fights and heal and trade favorably.
And
with
I guess I want to add something for Wisp Tiny. Many people don't know that this hero actually, if people say that he's a late game carry, it's not necessarily his skills, how it scales, because he has 2 nukes, AoE nukes, that's very powerful, and he has a ultimate that has a natural 50% cleave with a craggy exterior. These are all nice, these are all good, but what gives him the really good, really fast advantage into the late game is his ability to farm. And that's why Wisp Tiny specifically, instead of just picking the Wisp up, ran out of mana here, but actually managed to take the kill. But instead of just the Tiny, is way more powerful. It's because of his potential to farm. And what I mean by that is the Wisp would stack these neutral camps. So as you see here, this camp is stacked up. And with this camp stacked up, as a matter of fact, the Tiny is one of the few carries that have a AoE nuke that's able to clear the entire neutral wave. So once they stack this up one more time, the Wisp will then go in, cast his spirits, soften up this neutral camp somewhat, and then Tiny would go in and nuke the wave. After he nukes the wave, the Wisp then comes back using a Soul Ring or a mana boost, heal up his mana, and then gives him the extra boost to bam, once again take out the neutral wave after 2 or 3 more minutes of stack. So here you see, although I'm 39 and 4 in terms of CS, eventually after these nukes are leveled up high enough, the Wisp, after stacking these neutral camps, will allow me to do an extra sort of burst and able to accelerate Tiny's farm more so than any other carry in the game, allowing him to reach late game before other carries. That's why he was very popular in internationals and was almost an unstoppable combo. Here I just want to showcase to you guys what I was talking about. The Tiny at level 7 with level 4 Avalanche and level 1 Toss with the Wisp overcharged tosses the creep wave, and this was completely full HP creep wave that was not softened up at all. And we come back, Toss is leveled up, it's cooled down, comes up, take the full neutral wave, backs up a little bit, avalanche this, and takes a 3 stack of neutrals without missing much farm in the lane. There was about 1 creep that was pushed in and then goes back to farming. So 10 minutes in, although I missed some CS and I was forced back through a gank, in the end I still had 50 something CS, and some of them were of these neutral camps that really accelerated the gold per creep kill. So in the end, Tiny almost done the Agnum Scepter, 1000 away at 10 minutes in, and with another of these camps stacked, maybe even a small camp, 1000 gold would be a minute, 2 minutes away.
Slark gets the haste rune, Rubik rotates mid, and then they go for the dive on the already ganked Skyrath. It's really easy since he's only level 7 at that point, and he's a really fragile hero. With the haste rune, Slark's able to go in and out, regen up, and then he catches off the Slark, or the Skyrath, and then a half HP Tidehunter goes to rotate, and then he gets an easy double kill right there. And then at this point, bottom, I actually nuked both the supports. One of them got nuked out of lane, and the other one was a Tidehunter that was half health that got picked off. And then with that, we rotate mid for an attempted gank at the Nyx, but unfortunately could not secure the kill as he dodged the pounce with an infest.
Yeah, and at top lane though, at the same time, we killed the Darkseer. And as I was talking about earlier, with Tiny's accelerated farm, 12 minutes in, 500 away from the Agnum Scepter, neutral creeps are stacked. And at the same time, I just want to mention, once he does get his Ignum Scepter, there's a huge neutral camp stacked by the offlane player. So in this case, Kai, he was stacking the Ancient camp so that afterwards the Tiny can get overcharge from the Wisp. And with the Ignum Scepter, it's extremely powerful because the cleaving bonus is 50%. One of the highest cleaves, and with the Magnus in power, it becomes 100% cleave damage. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I think for you guys that are new to offlane, you should try not to like ever just be sitting there doing nothing. If anything, like if you're not getting EXP, the supports are doing a good job zoning you out. You can opt to stack the neutral or even roam mid for a gank, depending on your hero.
Yeah, that is if there's a carry that can clear it, or if you have a team that can clear it. So Luna, Gyro, DK, even single target range heroes like Drow Ranger would benefit a lot from stacking Ancients. But if you had a really soft, squishy kind of like Slark, if you had a Slark as a single core carry, it's probably, and your enemy had a Gyrocopter, it's probably not a good idea for you to be stacking the Ancients. I just wanted to point that out in case you end up stacking the enemy creeps for your stacking your Ancient creeps for the enemy. And,
yeah, just try to make efficient use of your time, and then when the lane pushes in, you can rotate back to the tower and try to pull the creeps away so they don't take your tower as well as leech some EXP.
Yeah, if you look at the top lane, they're finally grouping up because it's been 110. They've been losing every single one of their their lanes. And their rotations have been not good enough. I think that's thanks to Angel Baby, his really aggressive kind of Slark play. He shut down a lot of the he shut down mid, and then he was shutting down rotations. And then as you guys saw, he freaking dived past the tier 2 with all the tier 1s up. And let me just focus on the top engagement for a second. So Wisp gets bursted down. I'm just trying to kite them right now, but unfortunately I get disrupted. But a huge RP, 4 people turns out to be great, and then an avalanche toss on top of that with the Ignum Scepter, wipe. So it looked like a really bad engagement. Let me just go back a little bit because I actually missed the beginning of it. So what I was saying, they grouped up as 5-man. Their Tidehunter actually didn't have Ravage at this point because he's only level 5. And I just used my nuke on Creep Wave. And then suddenly there's a Gush, there's an Orb, there's an ult trying to pick me off. I'm staying here because I'm thinking, there's nowhere else for me to run. And I didn't want to TP because Kai on Skype was saying he's coming. Then bam, a 4-man RP. Could be a 5-man. Would have been 5 except the Shadow Demon died. And everyone dies. And Tiny with the 14-minute Ignum after that huge kill, huge fight top, and the Rubik as well just skyrocketed in terms of net worth and in terms of hero level. So what did you think of that fight, Kai?
Yeah, they tried to force a fight right before the Tai got his Ravage. He was actually level 5 during that fight. So they lacked their only major team fight pretty much, because Darkseers normally don't get their wall until 10 or 11. So they went for a pick-off and it took them all 5 to do it, and they just like conveniently grouped up for an RP Avalanche Toss combo, and that's pretty much the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I never expected that to happen. I don't think that's happened for me before in a Wisp Tiny game where we had a Magnus and just people clumped up like that for an Avalanche Toss. Early game it's ridiculous because your Avalanche is 300, your Toss is 300, and if you combo it, if you toss somebody in the air, they take double the Avalanche damage, so that's 900 on one target, 600 AoE. The RP itself is 150 damage, plus the Shockwave, which is 300 damage, and a Skewer, which is 280 damage. So you're wiping heroes with 700 HP, a Tidehunter that's naturally tanked 900 HP, Shadow Demon, even with the the magic reductions, you're gonna get instantly just melt. So you're gonna instantly get melted. It was not a good fight for them, and I think what Kai said made a lot of sense. Like they should have waited a little bit until the Tidehunter got his team fight Ravage, and then opted to group up and go for the fight instead of being too hasty with it. Although their rotations was, they were losing out in terms of trading, but 110 is not an unsalvageable game. If anything, the Lifestealer did not get picked off, except for that fight. He was 2-0 at that point, and if he kept getting his farm, if he opted to get his drums first to increase that further team fight capability even more, and the Tidehunter just opted to get his experience, it would have been a much easier trade. I think, yeah. What do you think, Kai?
Yeah, they definitely. I think laning wise, they secured the farm for the lifestealer early for the first bit, and he got which let him get a timely armlet for the most part. But then their supports weren't getting anything to do so. Like if you look, they were pretty much trying to zone me out the entire time, but because they pushed their lane, it didn't really happen. And if you look back to the replay, the Tide and the Shadow Demon had 0 CS for the longest time, when they could have simply just chain pulled, or stack and pull and deny my experience that way. And so they would have some farm too. Like the supports on the Radiant team are really, really poor this game and pretty under leveled too. They're only a little bit behind on the levels, but they really have no items to go on.
Yeah, their levels are not bad. I mean, it's 7, 7, and 8, and we have 8 and 9. It's not too bad, but it's these fights, these pickoffs that are really just destroying them. And although they did get me, that was a bit of misplay on my part. I TP'd in without the supports coming in. I opted to go chase down and combo someone, but it was, I didn't go for the phase boot drums build. I went for the power treads, egging them straight away. So my movement speed leaves a lot to be desired. It's 380, where if I actually had my phase boot and drums, I might have been able to chase someone down and combo right away. But unfortunately, no, and I missed Avalanche here and only got a toss off Tiny before dying. So it was a bit of a misplay. But despite that, the Slark, 9-1, destroying everyone as you guys saw. And with the Eye of Scaldy now finished, these nukes, these gushes, they're nothing. And, you see him easily just kiting, just going for the different ganks. And here with the Dark Pack, with the leap, and his regening 130 something HP a second once he gets fogged. At this point, the farm difference is just way too much for them to come back. So Kai, if we were to play on the other team, because I don't think the draft was too big of a difference. They had very strong fight potential. If we were them, what would be some of the things that would have done differently?
Oh, they have some pretty level dependent heroes, or supports rather. I'd like to see them maybe get more XP out of their jungle while zoning the Magnus. And then the Darkseer had some misplays at top early. There's a couple of unnecessary deaths. Maybe if he started out in the jungle as well.
Yeah.
Got his soul ring, got his level 3, then rotated to the lane. He'd be able to farm it a lot easier.
Yeah, you got cut off a little bit there, but basically you're saying just pull a little bit, get some experience, and opt to go that way, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, and you see Slark is dancing here and there, and giving us a lot of room just to attack and damage the tower. And at this point, after he buys back, he comes in, and these guys are out of the protections of their towers, becomes super vulnerable to an Eye of Scotty Stark, and it doesn't take much, and the Slark just destroys and wrecks havoc everywhere.
They could have even opted to roam with the Shadow Demon Tide, just because they weren't doing anything in the lane at the time except leeching
EXP from the Lifestealer, and actually,
XP off the Nyx.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, you got cut off a little bit there again, but Actually, EG Demon played a very strong, just roaming Tidehunter, just solo. And if a Tidehunter could come in conjunction with the Shadow Demon to set up with a Disruption, then Gush and Soul Catcher, that's a lot of damage. Your images do 60% damage at level 1. They do 30% each, so 2 are 60%. And in conjunction with the negative armor from the Gush and the Slow, as well as the Soul Catcher's amp damage, and not to mention the 2 heroes right clicks, it's very easy to get a pick off on a mid hero such as Slark, because his low level leap, or low level pounce I should say, is not too strong. The distance never changes. It's 700, and the cooldown is very long at level 1, so unlike now he can leap every 8 seconds. Back at the lower levels, he's more vulnerable towards ganks. And a good rotation from the Tide after the first blood could have really turned it around. And as a matter of fact, Slark, like what Kai was saying, is a very momentum hero. So if they did put that sort of pressure on top of the Slark, then it would have been a very easy lane for the Skywrath. And Skywrath also a momentum hero with a fast Mystic Flare before the Slark gets his level 6, would have been able to really shut down the Slark even with a bottle. Well, the game is kind of a stomp at this point. It's 7-38, and I think they just called GG in my replay.
Yep, didn't even get to clear the stacks yet.
Yeah, I didn't really get to clear an ancient stack yet. I'm speeding forward a little bit just to show you guys. Tiny, although with only 600 HP, as soon as he gets overcharged, and I picked up Morbid Mask with the cleave damage, look how fast. I didn't speed up the replay, so you guys saw how fast they basically cleared the stack here. I'll show you guys again. You have 300 gold, and then instantaneously you have 1.6k. So stacking these camps, if the game did go somewhat later, at any point from now on, I could have cleared this camp, and stacking it would be a job for the Wisp, and it wouldn't be too hard. Just you stack it a few more times. At 27 minutes, I clear it once more. At 30 minutes, I clear it once more. Wisp Tiny, we can start going for pickoffs. Other heroes can stack the jungle, and Tiny starts accelerating towards the end game. Eventually, if the game goes long enough, maybe 35 to 40 minutes, the Tiny is actually getting close to his 6 slots, much faster than any other carry could do, just based solely on farm in the game. Slark here had a lot of kills with the Mithril Hammer, with the BKB, and I've Gotti finished, but even Tiny with only farm is able to more than match his net worth. And here you see I'm actually ahead in terms of net worth. So Kai, is there any last words you have for this replay analysis?
Well, just win your lanes, do whatever's necessary, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not winning your lanes, rotate out. If you are winning your lanes, stay in your lanes. Force the enemy to rotate, and if they don't rotate, continue to put down the aggression you're putting, and further your advantage.
Just try to be active and make efficient use of your time. It's pretty much the general idea behind it. Maximize every avenue for your gold, EXP, etc.
Yeah, it's true. As long as you have your levels, as long as you have your experience, and your you as supports would be able to be effective. So for the for the Shadow Demon and for the Tidehunter, instead of opting to chase after kills to get some of that Cisco to try to turn the game around in that way, they should have just opted to pull, get some of their experience, because like what you said, they're very experience dependent heroes. And if the Tidehunter got his Ravage sooner, if the Shadow Demon had higher levels on his Curse, had higher levels, got his Demonic Purge earlier, it could have made a very big impact, and the game would not look so lopsided at this point. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time. Please comment, rate, and subscribe.
Peace.